Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Campus Conversation with the Chancellor at Austin Community College. I am Jessica Vest with the Department of Office Communications and Marketing at ACC, here with our Chancellor, Dr. Richard Rhodes. Hi, Dr. Rhodes.
How are you today, Jessica?
I am doing well. It is Monday morning, and it is the Monday morning after a really incredible weekend for the college, for our students, and all of our employees. In case somehow you didn't realize, this past Saturday was our spring 2021 commencement ceremony celebration. And today's campus conversation, I know, is one that we try to do at least once a year, one of your favorites to do because we get to invite some of our graduates to come sit down with you.
Yes, I'm excited about this. It is my favorite time of the year when we have graduation. I always tell people, two things that really get me excited. One is graduation and get to meet the students. Usually, pre-COVID, I got to meet them as they walked across the stage, and I got to hand them their diploma and get in trouble for asking too many questions and slowing down the line. Uh, but unfortunately, it was virtual again for this graduation. But it's still an exciting time for everybody, and I love seeing it. I love watching it on Saturday, and seeing the students, their names, and some of their comments about what it's meant to them. So this is exciting.
It is, and I'd love to introduce everyone to those students, those graduates, our Riverbats who are with us today. So wave, please, whenever I say your name. First, I'd like to introduce you to Jessica Munoz. She is one of our ACC welding graduates. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, everybody.
We also have Armando Sanchez, one of our ACC graduates who is now a student at Texas State University. Hi, Armando.
Hey, everyone.
Karen Meeks is with us as well, a culinary arts graduate from ACC. Hi, Karen.
Hi.
And we have Trayshawn Johnson with us as well, a student who is a graduate from ACC with 2 degrees and now attends UT Arlington. Hi, Trayshawn. Thank you for being here. Dr. Rhodes, I know you've had a chance. So inside, for everyone who wasn't aware, we did hop on this meeting a little bit earlier so we could all kind of get to chat. So we've gotten a little familiar with each other over the past 15 or 20 minutes. Dr. Rhodes, what an incredible group of Riverbats.
They are for certain, and they joined. We had over 2,800 students who graduated this spring. So when you combine that with the fall graduation, it's the largest we've ever had at ACC, and we're so proud of that. And it takes a lot, especially during this past year. So many challenges were thrown in the way, uh, faculty, staff, and students. And so, students, so proud of you that you persevered. That you did what was necessary under challenging conditions to make it through and to keep going to achieve your dream. And we want to hear more about that. But first, I just want to say thank you to all of our faculty and staff who have just gone above and beyond to make sure that we're doing everything that we possibly can to help students persevere, to persist and achieve their dreams and deal with the challenges that are thrown in front of them. And one of our commencement speaker, if you had the opportunity to listen to them, Ed and Margie Escudero, one of the things that Ed talked about is, not everything's going to go your way, and there are going to be challenges. There's going to be times where you're knocked down, and it's how we get up and how we keep going that makes the difference. And that's what employers are looking for too. Is not somebody that everything went their way, but people that have had to actually overcome challenges, and that's exactly what y'all did. And I'm so proud of all 4 of you, and want to thank you for joining us. It's this is going to be a conversation, and so we'll kind of jump around. But first of all, I wanted to ask each of you if you could just tell me, what does it feel like now? This past Saturday, you're a graduate. You are an ACC Riverbat graduate, and so how does that make you feel? And let me start with Karen.
Well, it's been 3 long years. I started in 2018 for my culinary degrees, and just the sense I actually for the ceremony, I actually teared up because it was just I had accomplished something. And I think that that's the big thing you take away from graduating. It's like, oh, I did it. I did it. Whether you go on to a 4-year or college and stuff, that's your decision. But, for me, I think I'm going to stay with the ACC associate's degrees and continue as a chef.
And and you got two different degrees, right? And
Yes, I have a baking and a hospitality entrepreneurship.
you're going to finish a third one this summer.
A third one in July will be my culinary arts.
All right, congratulations. And you don't need to tear up today, though.
Okay, I won't. Thank you.
Well, let me skip over to Trayshawn. So how does it feel to be a graduate of ACC? Two, a
Uh,
double graduate, right?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. It feels good. I remember when I was really like I wanted to really finish classes at ACC. I was like, when is gonna ever end? And it finally came around that time to say that I actually did it. It was kind of I had many ups and downs, but just keep my head right and staying with the positive people that was around me that helped me keep pushing to get these degrees. I want to thank them for that. I don't know what I would be without them. So
Well, great. And we're going to get to hear more about uh, your journey into engineering in just a little bit. Let me skip over to Armando real quick. Armando, so what does it mean? How do you feel being a graduate from ACC?
So I did graduate a year and a half ago, but after graduating from the ACC, it felt amazing just because being a first generation immigrant student and like family, just being part of like the first of like the family to graduate, it's a big accomplishment for not just for me, but our family, knowing that we had so many hardships, barriers, and a lot to really kind of move it through just to get to where I am today. And after graduating from ACC, it just really encouraged me after meeting, of course, like great instructors. It really encouraged me to go on and pursue my bachelor's and go on for a 4-year institution, which I'm now about to finish up my bachelor's and I got accepted to the master's program. So now I'm continuing my higher education into the master's program in political science. And it's just kind of crazy how time went by fast. And I just can't put it really into words how like I just finished ACC. Like for me, it just feels like I finished like a few months ago, but it feels like it's been a year and a half, and it still blows my mind how fast it went. But it's still, if it wasn't for ACC and making that accomplishment, I can't imagine how my life will be today and the person I would be today if I didn't want to go on and pursue my associate's degree.
Well, we're glad you did. And we're glad you came to ACC to do that. So
Thank you.
are you now, Armando? I didn't get to ask you. Are you originally from Austin?
So no, I'm originally from Mexico. I stopped in Del Estado, Mexico. But just for the audience, like it's just the central Mexico. That's the general area I was born and raised in. And I eventually came to the country when I was 6 months old, very young, very young. And after that, I was in Arizona for a few months, and then moved to Round Rock, and eventually came like around 2000 because I was born in 1989, so like around 2001, I was in Austin, and I basically lived my whole life here in Austin.
Great, great. We're glad you're here. And political science. And I'm going to ask you a few questions because you had the opportunity to work in the legislature, right?
Yeah, that
So
was
I'm going to have you that in just a little bit.
of course.
Okay. And Jessica, how does it feel to be a graduate?
Hi. It feels it feels good. It feels bittersweet. I want to take more classes, and I wanted to hold on to to the class a little bit, but feel I was ready after kind of that sunk in. I'm ready to dive into the workforce and use what I've learned and apply it to the workforce, and I feel a lot more prepared for what's to come. I've learned so much. I kind of reflect back on where I started and where I ended up, and I see so much growth in myself, and I can look at something and kind of know where it is. So, it's that completion, but it's also like the journey through everything I've learned. And I feel proud of myself. And I'm just happy that it's, I got my degree, and I feel proud that I can say that I've completed, the work. And I did it. I was there for the sweat and the tears and the blood. So
Yeah.
I'm really happy.
Oh, great. Now, did you tear up on Saturday?
I've been tearing up since last week. It kind of hits me at some points, and I think of the friends I've made, and it's just a really good feeling. I did cry too, so Karen, you weren't alone in that.
And it's okay to cry.
Yes.
Now, I'm gonna ask you two. Your entry to ACC was just a little bit different because you started through continuing education.
Yeah.
So tell us just a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when I moved to Austin area, to Round Rock, I wanted to take more classes to kind of understand more about the welding industry. So when I looked online, I saw that y'all had a whole list of continuing education classes, and welding was a part of that. I believe y'all have 2 welding, intro and advanced welding for continuing education. So that was a perfect start for me. And I learned a lot. They took us through the whole lab and made us hands-on with everything. And I remember the first time I had to weld, I screamed. I didn't know what was going on. I was electricity and sparks and everything. And that's what I needed. I needed to just jump right in. And that was the perfect setting for me. I could talk to the instructors. I was learning with people all around me. So we were going through it together. I wasn't the only one screaming in my booth. And after that, I did that in February. And then in the summer, I joined the Austin Community College as a student, and just began my welding journey through there.
Well, great. It's so important that you wanted the experience because you had taken classes while you were in San Antonio at San Antonio, I believe, and also at San Antonio College.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get to Austin and you wanted to learn more about welding. So you started through continuing ed, and that's a great story.
Yes, and from what I remember, I don't even think they offered anything like with UTSA. I don't know if they had offered welding or the community colleges in San Antonio. It wasn't really on my radar, but when I came here, the welding department just had so much walking through the welding lab and seeing even blacksmith and the metal art. It was really cool, and seeing the students, create these big art pieces, and it really sparks an interest.
Well, we are so glad you're here. I'm going to jump over to Trayshawn, and you grew up in Louisiana, and did you ever imagine you were going to come to Austin, Texas, and actually go to ACC?
Not in. I never thought I would even be sitting here in Austin in a million years. But I don't know, when my cousin was living here in Austin, he asked me if I wanted to stay out here, and I knew that was my opportunity once I graduated from Louisiana in 2014. And I always wanted to be an engineer. In junior high, I was an architect, but I switched it to civil engineer once I started in high school. And I stuck with being a civil engineer since then. And I just wanted to follow my grandpa's footsteps because he was also an engineer and he served in the Army. And all he used to do I was raised in the country of a little town called Bosco. And my mom just used to throw me to my grandparents like every weekend, like just seeing my grandpa fix on things. And build a lot of stuff from scratch. I just want to follow his footsteps, and I feel like engineering was a great field for me because, I mean, I'm good with building my hand. I'm building stuff with my hands, and I felt, following my grandpa's footsteps will make him and my grandmother proud. And it's basically just coming here from Louisiana to Austin. I feel like, man, this I never thought I'd be here in ever, because I used to see Austin, the football teams play on TV, but coming from a little small city, Monroe, I never thought I'd be here. So being here is just like a really huge honor.
Well, and it's an honor to have you here. So, and you received your associate degree in general studies a couple years back, and then more recently, you finished your pre-engineering.
Yes, sir. Yes, I just finished my engineering degree in general engineering here at Austin Community College. Now I'm currently working on my bachelor's in civil engineering here at UT Arlington, and hopefully, my goal is to probably transfer back, to Austin because I like the culture so much, and I met so many great people there that helped me get to where where I'm here today. So I want to thank them for letting me have the opportunity, and the people at Austin Community College.
We want you back here in Austin. So don't stay in Arlington too long, okay?
Yes, sir.
Hey, so Armando, now you had the opportunity to work in the legislature, right? Can
Yes,
you
sir.
tell us a little bit about that? And did we help prepare you so that you could do that?
So yeah, what helped? So one of the instructors, this is my state and local government professor who I told him after finishing taking federal government, I was telling him my interest of like how I decided to do this change of wanting to go from auto mechanic to politics. I was trying to really show him like I'm really interested. I really want to do something. I want to be tested. I want to be challenged. And sure enough, he gave me this opportunity. He's like, "Hey, you can intern at the here in the legislature." And I was like, "Oh, really?" So yeah. So for me, no, that opportunity itself, just like something I never imagined myself doing. But eventually, when I went through the whole process, got accepted, and I eventually started working for representing for Vicky Govan of District 47. Once I was in there, it was just phenomenal. Like it was a mind blowing experience. It was like having to actually be hands on and like learning how research bills, to analyze bills, to really interpret what the bills are saying, and having to do like correspond messages to the representatives, get to meet other representatives within that legislature. I was working at House Representatives, so the chambers down below. So one is like the chamber is really big, so you kind of need to not lose. Because I remember when like maybe the 2 weeks I was getting lost because then there's so many entrants, there's so many ways to get in, go out. And I'm just like I don't know what they're doing. But eventually I got down, like everything, it was just exciting because then I went from like going to down the chamber where the House representatives are, and then you go up to the Senate. If you go up in the chamber at the Capitol, it's just phenomenal. And I want to say definitely ACC and mostly my instructor at the time really prepped me for it because I was like, of course, this is my first time actually. This is the beginning of my political journey, and I was still learning the ropes. So having to ask those questions to my professor and just having that discussion with him after class hours and telling him how everything's going on. If he was like, as he was asking me hard questions, he was guiding me, telling me what to do, this and this and that. And it really just encouraged me to really challenge myself. Like I know during that time when I was working at the legislature, I was really discouraged because I felt like I was not up to the task. Because this is my first time. Like I feel like they could have grabbed anyone else besides me. But after really wanting to be challenged and having to have that opportunity, it really brought the best out of me. And a lot of it has to be, again, thanks for that instructor, which his name is Andre Hawkins. He's definitely I want to give him a lot of thanks for always being there and always encouraged me to say that, hey, just because you seem different, just because you treat different, does not mean you should see it that way. Just give it your best, and we'll work out in the end, which it did. After working for the representative and meeting new great people in the Capitol, I got connections even to this day. I still have connections, and I'm hopes of working for the representative again because she's still in office. So it was a great experience overall. I want to thank my instructor for guiding me and really encouraged me to continue with that opportunity. And just again, it's a experience that I wish like I again never imagined myself doing ever in my life.
Well, and, and there's no better experience than to have the opportunity to whatever you're learning in the classroom is to take that and actually practice it or see it in action. And that's exactly what happened to you. So, yeah, so we're glad that you had that opportunity and hope you have more opportunities like that in the future. Who knows? You may have an intern working for you as an elected official. So,
Yeah, just kind of echo back with that, piggyback from that, what you said. The same instructor said to me in the first beginning that I was destined to be an elected official. For me at the time, was like I was not fond of the idea. I was like, nah, I don't think so. And then as years went by, so I've been on politically and civilly active when it comes to immigration bills and everything's just going on. Like I've been active, and a lot of people began to tell me like you should run for office, and I was like, nah, that's never gonna happen. And now after taking a class with Beto O'Rourke, since he was teaching this year at Texas State, being a part of his class and really learning a lot more about Texas politics. Just like after that, and even getting the words from him himself, saying like, "Hey, you're destined to bring something, man." So like, and for him just telling me that kind of stuff, like just encouraged me to like maybe I want to perhaps run for office later in the future, and I don't know, perhaps someone will be working for me. But till then, I'm gonna continue to what I'm doing today, trying to be my best, and just continue this path and see how the future holds for me.
great, great. Beto's a good one to learn from. I got to work with him a lot when I was in El Paso, and he was just a young pup, kind of a startup there, and got elected, to city council, and then, and then he kept going, and so glad you had the opportunity to work with him. Stay in touch. Use him as a mentor. I would strongly advise. So Karen, so coming
Yes.
from South Carolina to
Yes.
Austin, Texas, and tell us a little bit about your journey because it's really interesting too.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm an older student, so that really had some challenges to me, I thought. But coming to ACC, it's really whatever age you are, you fit right in. That's one thing I want to say, because I was accepted at every avenue that I tried. Well, I began as a nurse, and I went into the nursing program, which is outstanding. The program here is outstanding, but that was not my cup of tea once I got into the practical side of it. And I've been a good cook. Everybody has been telling me that growing up. So I took that and I said, okay, well, I'm going to culinary. And so that's where I landed. And the good thing about coming to ACC is if one avenue doesn't fit you, you can always change and go down another avenue, something more interesting. So I went down on the culinary avenue and loved it, absolutely loved it. So I found my cup of tea.
And that is so important. What I'm hearing from all four of you is you found your passion, what really excites you, and it kind of changed your course and your direction. And I just have to again say thank you to our faculty and staff for helping make that happen. And Karen, like you're saying, sometimes we all start out in some degree or some program and we're not sure about it. But when somebody can help us find that passion that we have in us and kind of stir that, and look at you now. So now and tell me just a little bit too as to you earlier you were talking to me about how you would like to use your culinary, your new competencies in culinary arts and what you would like to do with it.
Yeah. When I loved all the prereqs for nursing. I learned a lot there. I just wanted to, after after changing from nursing, I wanted to do more of a nutritional thing. Maybe working with senior citizens, maybe assisted living. That's kind of my area. The one area that I'm thinking about, nowadays with, the COVID and everybody's wanting chefs, and it's a great opportunity to get in right now to do really anything. So I'm having to think about, okay,
Whoops, we froze up
It
there.
looks like, yeah, we'll
Right.
get,
So we will come back. I'm going to move over to Jessica real quick, Munoz. And so welding and ACC is a family affair
Yeah.
with you. So tell us just a little bit about that.
Yeah. So my father joined ACC in 2004 or 1994. Sorry. And he did the welding inspection classes here, and then it's helped create his career and start his own business. So I joined a couple years ago to do the welding inspection too, and they really prepare you for your certifications. So I'm an official certified welding inspector, and I could not have learned and done it on my own. I tried self-study with it, but there's just so much that you got to learn. So I was able to kind of get that certification, and it took a couple tries, but I got it. And I'm really excited to see the future. And I feel a lot more confident also with what I know to apply it into the field.
And you have, did you say you're going to have a nephew?
Yes, my nephew is joining. He'll start registering, I think today, for the welding inspection too. So we got my dad, me, and my nephew, and even the guys that we work with too. It's a father-son team that went through the program as well too. So it kind of just bleeds on down through the family.
That is amazing. Awesome.
Dr. Rhodes, we
Yes.
actually have a question in the live stream chat for Jessica that's related to this too. So our employees and faculty and staff are listening in, and Jessica, there was one question for you, wondering what was the most challenging aspect about being a welding inspection student?
I think just wrapping my head around it all. I haven't been a part of anything like this before. So just kind of learning how to use hand tools and a grinder, and seeing what a weld looks like, and kind of figuring out the science behind it, and like the amperage, the angle, and why it's wrong. And I did a lot of wrong welding, so I kind of got a good base behind me. But it was all, it was challenging. It was the first time I've learned anything like this, welding at all. But I've really loved it. I loved the challenge, and kind of, I don't know everything at all. I got a good base of everything, but I don't know. There's just a lot.
So what was the, over this past year with the pandemic, and some of the instruction had to go online, but yeah, in areas like welding and culinary arts and some of those where you have to have the hands-on experience. So how was that during this past year for you?
So when the pandemic hit, I was fortunate enough to have really good teachers, and I was in classroom classes. So I didn't have on the hands-on welding in the lab classes. So while it was kind of a learning experience for both the teachers and students going online, because it was really great to have that collaborative communication and discussion in the classroom. We went online, and I was able to complete my classes online too. And it did affect me when I joined the summer when we reopened, and just having the mask on in Texas heat, in welding, you have to overcome that and drink a lot of water and hydrate. And, our classes did get cut short. So we kind of had, some, incomplete classes that you kind of learned. But even now, I was able to talk to some of my teachers about that and pick up some of those things that I missed out on. And it was able to kind of catch up on those too. And they were very open to that.
Great. And Karen, you got frozen, and so I didn't.
I did. I apologize. Sorry about that.
But that's okay. That's okay. That's one of the challenges of a virtual environment, and it happens to all of us. So you were telling us kind of how you wanted to use what you learned in culinary.
Yes. Thinking about being a cook for an assisted living where I can, help people have good nutrition that way, and plus I love senior citizens, so that works that way. And regarding COVID, I agree with what Jessica said. At that semester, I didn't take any of the lab classes. I took, my marketing, my human resources, and things like that. So that really didn't affect me until the fall. And that's when we had to wear the mask and we had to have the shield face. And that was, you had to get used to the shield because it's very hot underneath there, especially when you're over a fry, or saute area and stuff. So that was the hardest, used to the shield. But now that I'm used to it, so I don't pay any attention now. But I agree with Jessica. It's something you have to kind of get used to and really overcome that.
Well, Armando, so you've gone through, whether it's at ACC or at Texas State, a transition into virtual learning. How was that for you?
Man, that was quite an experience. Let's just say that, because I definitely agree with the difficulties that Jessica and Karen had to say, like what COVID has brought, especially when you have like shorter classes, everything is virtual now. For me, that transition to virtual online, for me was very difficult because I was doing 5 classes per semester. So having to do 5 classes, like 5 Zoom meetings, or depending on the professor, like it was a learning experience for not just for the student, but for the professors there as well, because they having to learn new ways to how to use technology, how to make class effective for them. And of course, like that's the struggles and the headaches and like just the amount of like stress that virtual learning has brought, not just on the student, but on the professor's perspectives as well. That's something I want to emphasize too, because I understand from the student's perspective, we going through so much stress. We having to having to wanting to know the answers to our questions since everything's now is virtual. But the professors are also learning through this experience. They're not like expertise on it when it comes to technology, and depending on their age or everything like that factors in as well, because yes, some professors are older now and still having to learn how technology use, and you still haven't even done the ones who are younger and still don't know how to use technology as well, and depending on the type of pages they have to use when it comes to Canvas, Blackboard, or on tracks. So like that's so many barriers and obstacles that not just the student perspective we're going through, but the professor's perspectives as well. And for me, it was challenging because I was taking 5 classes per semester, so having to really balance everything out, and basically like my every day was just me waking up, eating breakfast, and then on my computer for the rest of the day, because it was so overwhelming at first, and on the first semester when COVID hit. But eventually, once the first semester went by, I feel like even from the students' perspective, we learn how to balance virtual learning, and also as well for the instructors, the professors, they learn how to, okay, now I know how to use technology, I know how to use Canvas, Tracks, Blackboard, I now know how to make the class more effective, more actually like a learning experience. They can actually learn rather than they're not feeling like they're having to learn a lot. So that's one of the things too, like I had a trouble kind of keeping up, because me studying politics and political science, I love it, but it was hard to learn when you just given it numerous like plus pages on a reading, and then the professor's not actually discussing about that, or like it's not the same when you're in person rather than virtual, because in person you can actually have those conversations, engage with what you read, where here you just have to do the reading and take the quiz, and just you don't really get encouraged to like really learn from it. So but that's the one this definitely was a difficult learning experience, but now I feel like we're in a state that both the professor and the student are now more balanced and more like, okay, now we know we have experiences before, now we know how to move forward.
Right. And have a yeah, because you can still have a conversation. But I understand, it's harder. I taught a couple of classes this past year, and trying to transition from teaching face to face, which is, my preference, but then going all of a sudden to online, it is, what you said, Armando, it was a difficult transition for faculty, um, to make that leap almost overnight, within a 2-week period, to go from face to face to 100% online was difficult. But they made it work, and you are the results of that. You are graduates because they were successful in that. So Trayshawn, so some of that took place for you for classes that you were taking at ACC, and some of it at UT Arlington. And so how was that transition for you in engineering?
Um, so I actually started UTA around 2018. So like we didn't actually get the COVID around the time, but I actually took a couple of classes here during the summer at ACC. But transferring from in person to virtual was kind of difficult because in engineering, we always communicate and work with teams. So it's kind of different working online, talking to people, from a camera, from a different perspective, because like it's like kind of hard to explain because like we work with our hands so much, and like we work in teams and labs so much that like in labs, like on video, it's kind of hard to do that because like we just talking to each other and kind of explain it from a slide or something. But it was kind of hard because it's not the same as meeting new people. That's the thing. Like I like meeting new people at the same time. So like meeting and talking, understanding what you're doing for this assignment and what you're doing for this project. Um, it was just kind of difficult because like we're not together as a team at one because it was just
Right.
nobody didn't want to get COVID or anything. So so
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was still a challenge. So
Good. I'm also want to ask each of you. Did you have some special professors that really helped you, and professors that you say, I just am so thankful that I had the opportunity to be with them at ACC. Trayshawn, any come to mind for you?
I have so many teachers. I hope they don't get mad at me if I don't mention them. But, I want to thank Roland Hayes from the Eastview campus. He teaches American history. He actually a native from Austin community. I mean, he a native from Austin. So with me being a native Louisiana native, he actually told me a lot in Austin that blows my mind. So like if you sit around him, he'll talk to you about anything about what's going on in Austin or what happened in Austin. And with him, I'm not too sure. He's just such an amazing guy that like he don't when you in his class, he don't treat you as a student. He teaches as a family. He welcome you with open hands, and it's like you feel like you at home. And I just want to thank him for that opportunity of me being with him because like I met so many people in this class uh, that really stood up, that really touched my heart. And I also want to thank Frank Cronin from the Northridge campus because he was my first teacher there at Austin Community College because I was really nervous of how college was going to be when I was, first joining ACC. So like he actually opened me with welcome hands as well, and now they both, I email them, talk to them, and keep in touch while I'm here in Arlington. So I want to thank them both for letting me have this opportunity and my other teachers as well. I didn't mention, but I want to thank them as well for letting me have this opportunity of being in this position that I am, because I never thought I'd be in this position.
Yeah, great, great. You know, the reason I asked that question of our students is, you know, I oftentimes think back about my higher education career, and you know, my first year out of high school, I attended a community college, and the one professor, Dr. David Townsend, made all the difference in the world, because I tell people that I was a very distracted student when I was in high school. So I wasn't the best student. And when I got into the community college, and Dr. Townsend really brought learning to life for me, and really got me excited about reading and about learning. He taught world history, and you know, I took him for every class I could possibly get him for, but really made a difference. And so I like to hear those stories about, you know, what professors, or what staff people, you know, whether it's in advising or counseling, who really made a difference and took an interest in you that kind of propelled you forward. And so thanks for sharing that, Trayshawn. And Karen, I'm going to go to you next. And who kind of gave you that tough love, or whatever was necessary for you to be successful?
Well, the first one that comes to mind is Chef Wagner. He it's kind of like you. I would take every class under him. You know, he's an author. He makes it fun, and he provides, like, it's like a family. You know, each class is like a family. I mean, you have different students. In the end, you become really good friends. You have become, um, I mean, it's just, you love working with each other in a kitchen setting. And for baking, I would have to say probably Chef Harrington. She pushes me. Yes, she pushes me, because I actually, just to see if I could, because I used to be just a box cake mix person, and I would shy away from the made cakes and stuff. And I thought, well, let me see if I can do this. And I did it. So, and thanks to her, I did that. And I have to mention Chef Sternow and Chef Melton. They're all good. The whole culinary arts programs are excellent here. And I've learned so much. And I can see myself going from a cook, what I used to be, to a chef, what I am now.
Oh, great, great. Thanks for sharing that. And Armando, who at ACC sticks out to you?
It has to be one, the instructor I already mentioned, which is Andre Hawkins, but also Annika Rivera. Both of them really encouraged me to be myself, to just not, even despite that I am going to start this political journey. It's important to be yourself, because you don't want to change who you are, or really let others really change just, again, who you are, because that's it gets, and when it comes to talking politics and just discussing politics in general, it can be messy, but they encourage me to be myself when it comes to pursuing this journey, and as well, like, it's okay to feel like you're like the task is difficult, because I know with them, they were asking me hard questions, even though, like, I was learning the ropes when it comes to my political journey. They were asking me hard questions already when I was barely starting, because they want me to already get the idea. There's so many issues, like, they made sure, like, the media might cover one issue, like one main issue, but there's more into the root of that issue that's really not being covered, that you should bring out and, like, actually advocate for. Because I know I'm speaking from being an immigrant, there's a lot to really discuss there, and people just kind of see it just a general issue, but there's so much that's not being mentioned as that issue. So for them, like, again, I really want to thank them, because they really challenged me to bring the best out of me, despite, like, hate feeling like uncomfort. I hate feeling uncertain. I hate feeling awkwardness. I feel like this goes for all students. I feel sure we hate feeling that we're wrong, that we're uncertain, that we just feel we don't like feeling like this is uncomfortable for us. We hate that. We like it when we're right. We like it when we're actually doing things correct. So, but it was that, like, uncertainty, that uncomfort that really brought the best out of me, which it helped me continue the path I was am today. And for them, that's why I really want to thank them. I can't stress enough how thankful I am for them, because I can't imagine myself how politically active and civically active I will be because of them, because they really brought the best out of me, and I'm out here advocating for my community, for other communities, and really bringing up, advocating and showing awareness to other issues that the media is not bringing out.
Good, good. Thanks, Armando, for sharing it. Jessica, how about you?
I want to say all the welding teachers are great. And the biggest person that had, well, the person that had a big impact in my life was, he's now retired. It was Dr. Warren Donsworth. He was the welding inspection teacher, and he puts you, when you take his class, he puts you at a high standard, and he wants you to keep it that way. When you're welding, when you're inspecting welds, you're inspecting bridges, hospitals, schools. So it's important to know what you're doing, what you're talking about, and be confident and making the right calls and the correct calls, because your job has an impact on structures, and if it fails, that's going to be on you as well. So and he's great. He takes an interest in your career and in your life, and even though he has retired, he still emails us and he gives us updates on students, and we have students that are in Seattle and in Washington and in Kansas. So we all spread out, and we have one working in Tesla. So it's just a really nice community that he has created, and with the Austin Community College also. So he's a big part of my life. And then he also taught my father and a lot of the guys that we work with now. So he's been a great person. He helped write a letter of recommendation for me and helped me get scholarships. And he just wants you to be the best person.
Good. I had the opportunity last week to visit the Tesla Gigafactory that's coming online here in the Austin area. And as walking through, while it's under construction still, and seeing all of the welders at work while walking through, gives you a great understanding and appreciation for how important that is.
Yeah.
And to Trayshawn too, is seeing the importance of civil engineering at work out there on the grounds and under construction, and watching all of that taking place is how important this is for the future. And so thanks for sharing that. One thing that I've heard from all four of you is in some way you have talked about ACC is like a family, and it's become like a family to you. And can you talk just a little bit more about that? And just you don't get that feeling everywhere that you've been embraced by the employees that work at an institution and your fellow students, that you begin to feel like I'm in a family, this new family called ACC, a Riverbat family. Can you tell us just a little bit more about how that feels now, and how it felt while you're going through your journey? So let me start with Karen. Let me start back with you again.
Okay. Yes, I have that feeling. When I first began, because I'm an older student, and I was hesitant about coming back because I thought, oh, it's all the younger people, I won't fit in. But I walked into my classes and there is a mixture of ages. And we all got along. That's the great thing about I would take away from ACC is I'm not hesitant to go back to class now, because there's all ages that are there, that are all represented. Each class, once you complete a semester, at the end of the class, it's like, oh, I hope I have class with this person and this person and this person and this person again, because you form relationships and you form friendships. I have friendships that um, I have friends that have gone out to become chefs, and I keep up with them on Facebook, and encourage them and and all, and they're doing great. They're doing awesome. It it's really, really a cool feeling to know that you have this family feeling. It's kind of hard for me to put into words. It's just a feeling that I get, from every class. Um, my way up to my capstone classes, every one of them was like a family. And we all got along. And I just contribute that probably to the professors. I mean, they provided a wonderful atmosphere. They taught us, they made us laugh. I mean, we were all in it together. And so we pulled together, and it was just great. I really, really enjoyed my time at ACC.
And that's probably why you might have teared up a little bit on Saturday, huh?
I did. I didn't think I would. I was trying not to, but I did. I really did. Just and my name up there and going, oh my gosh, all my close friends. I mean, some are still working their way up to the capstone classes, and so it's like, yeah. So I will definitely keep in touch with them through Facebook or some kind of social media.
Great, great. And Trayshawn, how about you? And what would you advise to future ACC students?
I can say, first of all, I want to thank Mr. Mervyn Jones for actually speaking of like welcoming family here at ACC. He's the one that actually opened me with welcome hands of making me be this person of who I am today. 'Cause he made me he introduced me to other guys like Derek Daryl Manyweather and Jason Brown, guys like that to help me, be a person of who I am today. Because like I was actually kind of homeless a couple of times, and like basically like I was to my low level of quitting, and basically just don't didn't know what to do at the point, and basically just staying around guys like Mr. Mervyn Jones and Daryl and those fantastic other people they introduced me to, just basically being motivated with them, and they kept me positive. They described me to keep pushing, and basically just I want to thank them for letting me be here today. So like I just want to tell everybody, just to let them know, just don't quit on yourself. Keep pushing, because you never know. Like the day you quit, probably be the day the opportunity opens. The door opens for you. So uh, basically, just keep pushing.
Great way to look at it. And you participated in something called Brass. Can
It's
you
a
just talk just a little bit about that?
it's the Black representation of achievement through student support. I also was a member of ACE, Austin Community Corps of Engineers, with my friend uh, Javon Burton. We actually just was some young kids that wanted to, basically just make a change for each other, because we, guys like Mr. Mervyn Jones, motivated us to just, bring people, under our shoulders to just uplift students. They came from the struggle of hard times. Just keep them motivated. Because it's a lot of us. Probably either doing negative things, but we want to change that cycle, and just find people that keep them motivated. Without
Yep.
those guys, I just can't say where we will be. And I want to
Yeah.
thank them.
And it makes such a difference when you have somebody like a Mervyn Jones who uh, that they're there for you, and that they care about what happens to you. And that's what a family is all about. And so thanks for sharing that, Trayshawn. So Armando, what would you recommend to future students and about ACC?
What I would recommend was like I know mostly when it comes to the people of color, people Hispanic, we feel discouraged and I know what we're doing just because neither you're first generation or second generation, you're still having to learn the ropes. Like I know I understand that uncertainty of not knowing what to do if you're taking the right class and this and that. I understand those barriers, but one message I would like to give those future students is that I encourage you to make friends because if you're curious, because again, it goes back to this message we are saying about family. If you make friends, you eventually build this family. And then once you build that family, the family's going to continue growing. Where now you're having people to help you with this journey because both of y'all may be learning together at the same time, but you guys going to be feel more encouraged, more, you're going to be bringing the best out of both of like bringing the best out of you guys. Like you're bringing the best out of you. So that will help you encourage you and ask those questions that of a certain like if the classes I'm taking will transfer over or I'm taking the right classes for my degree. Those type of questions, those type of barriers, those type of uncertainties. Because I know speaking from experience, I wasn't sure what I was doing, but having this family, this idea or message of family here in ACC, knowing that that's like I want to say that's the message of ACC. That's what's really highlights ACC because if I didn't build that family there at ACC, I would don't know if I had the courage to ask those questions when it comes to transfer over Texas State, asking when should I start looking those deadlines, financial aid, those type of things. Because I know mostly when it comes to people of color in my community, we feel discouraged. There's so many issues with that, and all I gotta say is like really, I encourage you to make friends because that family is gonna grow and that's gonna help you succeed in later in the future. Just and that's just come from experience because I know it helped me big time when I came to graduating to bachelor's to now even pursuing my master's.
Yeah. Armando, those are great points because, you know, uh, speaking about, first generation student, um, they don't have people within their family that can help them navigate higher education, and that can be kind of daunting task. And so, it takes a lot of different people at ACC to help make that happen. And I want to thank you for bringing that up because, whether it's counselors or advisors or the career center, or whoever, and oftentimes, it may be somebody who just works there, who's working, in facilities, who's there to answer questions. But it's having that kind of family environment of all of the employees and the students feeling like it's okay to ask questions. It's okay not to know what you're doing and to get advice. And so I'm really glad you brought that up because sometimes we kind of fail to understand how hard it is, especially if you don't have somebody in your family who can help you navigate those circumstances. So, Jessica, I'm going to wind up with you. And what would you advise future students at ACC?
I guess one of the reasons why I was a little sad about graduating is because you bond with the people that you're around. You bond with your instructors. You bond with the students that you're in class with, and even you walk around the lab. You bond with students that aren't even in your class, and you just gotta talk and make connections and they could be career connections or they could be your best friend. And it really, what I really loved about the welding department is that they were very they just accepted everybody. It didn't matter who you were. If you put in the work, you did a good job, and you're making a reputation for yourself. So being a woman in welding, there's a handful, but we had, LGBT plus. We were open to everybody, and you learn together and you connect with people. That's what I want to say. Like when you're here, you talk to people. COVID made it difficult because you got to stay 6 feet away, but everybody's doing something different later on after they graduate, and you kind of connect with them, and you've got a connection of somebody maybe in pipeline that I'm not going to go into that field, but you see them, you connect on social media and you keep up with them, and you get a taste of what their work life is and their life is outside of your own little kind of busy schedule. And that's, I cherish that. I cherish the instructors that I now call friends. I cherish the connections I've made with students, and I've met so many friends here, and coming from San Antonio and living here for a few years, it's been a struggle making friends. And this really kind of helped me and create a little network of people that I enjoy to be around. So,
and that is so important. And mentors for the future. What you find with the employees, the faculty and staff at ACC, they will become mentors for life. So keep them close, keep in contact, and anytime you can say thank you to them, that's a blessing to them, and that lifts their day when they can hear that feedback. And so I just encourage you to take the time to do that. I am so proud of you all and what you have accomplished. Just listening to your stories inspires me. It gives me confidence, and it encourages me about the future, that we are in good hands, as we look to the future because of you. And so thank you for spending time with us today and sharing your stories and what your futures are. And we look forward to that future for each and every one of you. So Jessica, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Jessica Vess.
You got it, Dr. Rhodes. What an incredible conversation. I mean, we could have kept going, I feel like. Thank you, everyone who joined us today for the campus conversation with the Chancellor, for our special guests, Trayshawn, Jessica, Armando, Karen, and for, of course, our Chancellor, Dr. Richard Rhodes. This has been an edition of Campus Conversations with the Chancellor. Thank you.